world is changing fast. New technologies are impacting how we think about products, services, and the way we live our lives. Nowhere is this trend more present than in financial services, where new business models and customer expectations are changing our conceptions about banking, finance, and the very nature of money. Welcome to Rebank, a visionary podcast about banking, fintech, and the future. The future of banking is here. Hello and welcome to Rebank. I'm your host, Will Beeson. Today we're thrilled to be joined by not one but three guests from BBVA, a bank setting the pace for innovation among incumbents. We connected with BBVA as part of their open talent competition. Last week in London, they hosted the final for their Fintech for Companies stream at an event organized in conjunction with Innovate Finance. In this episode, we'll hear from Mario Pardo, Head of Client Solutions at BBVA, Carmela Gomez, Head of Global Treasury Solutions, and Marisol Menendez, Head of Open Innovation. All three share fascinating insight about the way BBVA thinks about innovation, how they've created a forward-thinking culture, and why openness is crucial to the future of banking. As always, connect with us on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, or on our website at bankingthefuture.com. If you enjoyed today's show, please subscribe on iTunes or your podcast platform of choice and leave us a review. Thank you very much for joining us today. Please welcome Mario Pardo, Carmela Gomez, and Marisol Menendez. Mario, welcome to Rebank.
Thank you very much. Very excited to be here.
Tell us a bit about your role at BBVA.
Sure. So I'm responsible for client solutions, which in a nutshell means that I'm responsible for basically the transformation of the whole client business. And by clients, we mean companies, corporations, and institutions. We have a business that is being run very well by the existing bankers. And then we have a group of people, which I head, which we are working on tomorrow's bank. So anything regarding the transformation of our business would be under my unit.
Oh, interesting. So is it stuff that clients are able to see and feel on an ongoing basis, or are you guys sitting in a building somewhere, building a totally separate organization that will come to market later? How integrated is it with the existing proposition to customers?
It's fully integrated. As a matter of fact, everything we do, we work under what we call the triangle development model, which means that for every single project we work on, we have people from the business coming in, joining us. We work in Agile, so it's fully integrated with our current business.
How are you involved with the Open Innovation competition?
I'm very involved. It's actually a core component of my job. Innovation is one of our core competences. It touches everything at the bank, and specifically in our client solutions business, is a critical part of everything we do. So I'm very involved. I'm actually today the sponsor. So I've been very involved in the Open Talent competition for quite a few years now, but it was a broad competition, and I did want to have a very focused one, looking for new solutions for companies rather than only retail individuals. So I asked for that, and as an answer they gave me, great, you're going to be the sponsor.
Well, that sounds like it makes sense. So just for context, we're doing this interview around tomorrow's event, which is hosted by BBVA together with Innovate Finance, which will be one of the... How many different streams are there in the Open Talent competition?
We have 5 different streams, and specifically, as you rightly mentioned, we're going to be having tomorrow the one focus on companies. So looking for innovation, anything regarding new banking services, or actually even also adjacent services close to banking is what we'll be touching upon tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. I'd be curious how you expect your involvement in the competition to impact your work. So I don't know, looking forward, do you expect that partnerships or collaboration projects might come out of the pitches and the selection process that we're seeing as part of the Open Talent competition?
Absolutely, yes. That was the idea when we decided to launch this competition around a year ago. we had the intuition that there was a lot of innovation specifically focused on companies, but actually through the last year we got north of 200 companies applying to the competition. We selected 40, which we reviewed in a lot of detail, and actually have tomorrow the final with 10 of them. All these 10 companies are phenomenal companies. Great talent, great ideas, very technologically driven. So I'm very excited about tomorrow, and I'm convinced with most of them we'll be doing things together.
Well, I suppose that's the benefit of working for a big bank like BBVA. You're not selecting one of the participants to potentially partner with, but you're actually looking at potentially working with a number of them, or even all the finalists.
Yeah, we have. So we are kind of a medium-sized bank. We are very focused on a number of geographies, and specifically the companies, business companies, corporations part of the equation. So taking out the retail part is around half of our business. So it's a core component. We have around 2 million clients of the bank across north of 20 geographies. So and we focus on universal banking. So that means that we have a very broad range of services. That's why the range of ideas that we've been seeing through the application process has been very exciting. And tomorrow we have a very, very good selection of companies. So I'm convinced we'll be doing a lot of things with them.
Yeah, great. Can you talk at all about the kind of the culture at BBVA? You guys have the reputation of being, very forward-thinking and innovation-focused. Is that true in practice? And I mean, how does BBVA approach banking? And I guess how do you think about the future of banking?
I think similarly, as I mentioned before, we do think that we have very good talent, we have access to capital, we have access to technology, but at the end of the day, we're a small, medium-sized bank in a huge, highly interconnected world. I do personally think that what we're seeing out there is what I call the democratization of innovation. Historically, we had innovation very tied to incumbents and at most tied to the large tech vendors. That in the current world where there is so much and so easy access to financing, so easy access to technology with the new enterprise software and the cloud technologies, and also very easy access to top talent. 1 or 2 generations ago, top talent wanted to work for a corporate for 30 years. Now they want to innovate, they want to do new things, they want to disrupt industries. So with such a huge access to financing, technology, and talent, innovation is happening everywhere and very quickly. That's why we are just a medium-sized bank, very humble, and we're only going to be good if we actually leverage the ecosystem. So clearly innovation is a must. Without being an innovative company, you will not survive in the current world.
Okay, so you say innovation is happening everywhere. I think it's happening in a lot of places. One place it may not be happening, or at least very quickly, is in incumbent banks in the UK, for instance, many of which appear to be struggling to kind of cope with changing customer expectations and, in fact, changing digital capabilities along the lines that you mentioned. What is it about BBVA that means you're in a position to actually engage with third-party propositions, with fintechs, to progress innovation in a meaningful way, which I think, as you can testify to, has very tangible knock-on impacts for your customers, for your clients?
Often when I talk to colleagues in our industry, if I were to say what is the main reason why sometimes it's difficult at the bank to make progress, is that we have historically had, as a critical part of our success, the control functions. So legal, regulation, risks were critical aspects of a bank. Without having very good risk controls, legal departments, you would fail in a crisis, either financially or reputationally. You would have died. So when you look at banks that have survived for 100 years, they tend to have very, very, very strong control functions. So that's, I would say, one of the key aspects of innovation. You need to be jointly innovating with them. You cannot have the business just saying our clients want this. You need to have the business working with legal, with risks, with compliance, with all the departments, trying to think as to how would the future of that specific service will look at BBVA. And if you involve them from day one, what you see is that they provide you with very helpful input, so that when you interact with the ecosystem, you take that feedback into consideration and you select the right partners. So I would say that is one of the key aspects, and that in my view makes a difference in terms of being more or less innovative. And the second one I would mention, innovation in a sense doesn't tie well with banking. We have a reputation for being very careful in terms of taking risk, and to be good at innovation, you need to be convinced that you're going to be taking risk, and obviously when you take risks, some of those will result in failures. So having the conviction that you can be a bank, you can be a very defensive and highly safe institution, but at the same time take risks with regards to innovation, is a difficult combination. And in my view, here the second key aspect is to have a very clear top-down approach to innovation. So from the board, chairman, CEO, and senior management to be very involved with the innovation efforts.
And that's the case at BBVA?
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, because I mean, I suppose interacting with traditional bankers here in the UK, the US, continental Europe, it seems like the initial reaction toward innovation, toward changing dynamics in the industry, changing expectations, is often a closed one as opposed to an open one. And I think if you approach it with that mentality, it just gets really difficult to kind of explore opportunities in a blue sky way, and eventually get to ones that can actually have meaningful risk-adjusted impacts on your business. It sounds like you guys do that very well.
Well, we try hard, and for sure, what is clear is that we have a determined vision that this is a critical part of our success. And to be honest, obviously we think we have good skills in banking, but more relevant in the case of innovation, we also see a second very profound macro trend in the world, which is what we sometimes call the blurring of the industries. So we're seeing that to be good in banking, you need to be good about the adjacent services, because ultimately you have people from adjacent services that will be getting into banking. That is very obvious with the large techs, but even with some more traditional companies, you are seeing that ultimately what they manage to do is to bundle services so that you can improve the proposition to the ultimate customer or client. So being very open-minded as to how you innovate, who you partner with, and basically being open with regards to the ecosystem is a critical part. I would say not only in banking, but just in the current environment where you have more and more an easier connectivity amongst systems, platforms through APIs, etc., is a critical component. So we hope to be good at it, but at the minimum, I strongly believe that there is a clear determination that is making that all of us dedicate a lot of effort and excitement to innovation and open ecosystems.
Mm-hmm. Well, on that note, I've got one final question for you. So your work specifically is with corporate customers, and traditionally those corporate customers would have been served by a range of offerings that were all owned and delivered by the bank, and often those corporate customers are the most important, the most profitable for a bank, and perhaps those that banks would most like to retain complete ownership of. But it sounds like some of the work that you're doing involves taking a more open approach to serving those customers. Do you have any thoughts as to the way that that corporate banking might develop over the next few years?
I have a lot of ideas, and I do not know exactly how it will evolve, but there are some clear macro trends that we're convinced that will be happening across geographies and business and corporate segments. Just to pick on a few of those, we're seeing a very profound digitization of the relationship. We have seen that across some of the capital markets products, where a lot of the interactions with the clients just go electronically or digitally, but that is expanding very rapidly across the corporate banking services. As the world is going more digital, invoicing and supply chain is just becoming more digital. So everything is becoming more digital, and that means that the interaction with corporate customers is going to be profoundly transformed. It's been a very people-driven business. So that is clearly one aspect that is going to be evolving. The second one is that historically, when we look at corporate banking, it has very much been anchored around relationship lending. So you would lend to a client, and in exchange for that, you will get business. That is still a relevant aspect, and lending is good, is valuable for companies. They can grow thanks to that. But increasingly, we're going to see that to win on the non-lending business, you need to have the best non-lending solutions. So yes, relationship lending is not going to get you as far as it used to in the past for a number of reasons. Because in some countries the interest rates are creating huge liquidity, because there is a lot of non-banking providers offering great non-lending solutions. So for a number of reasons, you're going to need to get much better at not lending to be getting that cross-sell. The third aspect we are seeing is that we are going to be dealing for the foreseeable future with people, with human beings at the other side of the table. So there is going to be a human element to the interaction, but it's going to be focused on very selected, smart, and complex interactions. So it's going to be much less about relationship, much more about advisory. And advisory, it's not only about capital markets advisory, but treasury solutions advisory, product opportunity advisory, about partnership advisory. So there is an element of advisory that's becoming more complicated, much more database, much more sophisticated, much more orthodox, rather than kind of the traditional relationship banker type of approach. And then the final kind of macro trend I would mention, yes, in the interest of time, would be the one I touched upon before, which is the blurring of the industries. We do see both in the retail and non-retail world, more and more the services going into platforms, and that means that you could have the same company providing you the ERP, supply chain software module, as well as the payments module, as well as potentially lending based on that invoicing and sales figures. So that is just anecdotally, but we are seeing more and more across industries in banking and non-banking this convergence of industries. So those are just 4 clear macro trends that for sure will happen. How do you put all that together in the ultimate situation? Anyone's opinion is as good as mine.
Wonderful. Well, thanks for the insight. Great to connect with you. Mario Pardo, Head of Client Solutions at BBVA.
Thank you very much.
Carmela, welcome to Rebank.
Thank you.
Tell us what you do at BBVA.
At BBVA, I'm in charge of developing global channel solutions for customers, regardless of the type of channel, but in every case on a do-it-yourself basis. This means webs, mobile, APIs, any kind of do-it-yourself channel or automated channel to have a relationship with the customer, plus solutions that are delivered through those channels as cash management, trade, and supply. That means transaction solutions.
It sounds like a huge job.
It is.
Okay, so when you say customers, is that corporate customers?
Corporate customers. Clients,
Mm-hmm.
corporate, retail, and institutional clients, but in any case, nothing related to retail customers.
Mm-hmm. I was, in preparing for this conversation, kind of laughing to myself, thinking that here we are at this Fintech event, and I'm speaking with the head of Global Treasury Solutions, which at any other bank may have nothing to do with Fintech, maybe a very traditional role. But BBVA seems different. Why is that?
I think that the industry is changing very much in this, and one of the areas where I think that the industry is changing more is the transactional one. In fact, digital world is something that is here to stay. And when we talk about clients, digitization means automation, and transactional services are very much related to this kind of automation. So I think it's not only BBVA. I mean, BBVA wants to transform and wants to be the bank of the future, and for that it's necessary to be in the heart of the fintech ecosystem. So I think that it's not only BBVA, but BBVA wants to be there.
I understand you specifically have worked on 3 fintech partnerships within the bank with Wave, Ripple, and MyValue. I'm particularly interested in the Ripple case. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yes, of course. It was a great experience. We learned, both Ripple and BBVA, very much about the relationship between a fintech and a bank. The idea was to make cross-border payments on a more efficient way. Today, I think that on the transactional world, probably the cross-border payments are the most inefficient part of the transaction that a company does every day with the bank. And Ripple is providing an alternative rail to the usual correspondent relationship between banks. And it's providing things that are really disruptive as online tracking of the payments. We did a pilot with Ripple between Spain and Mexico. And we managed to do what usually takes days, from 1 to 4, depending on the country and depending on the ordering and recipient bank. But we did that in seconds. So this is a huge change. We are now piloting with several customers which are really interested in understanding what this can bring to their cash and treasury optimization.
So for those who maybe aren't intimately familiar with the corporate banking space, can you maybe explain that a little bit? Because the role of the bank in that relationship might be fundamentally different than, say, a retail savings account or current account. You guys are almost partnering with corporates and supporting them as they manage a lot of their own, for instance, in-house treasury work, their own supply chain and how they manage that. So it sounds like Ripple might be particularly relevant, but maybe you can explain kind of the work that your group does with some of the corporate customers.
I agree absolutely with what you've said. I mean, in fact, for us, our clients are our partners, and we pretend to be their partners in providing them not only the lending that they may need when they need funds to manage their supply chain, but also we pretend to be their partners in automizing their daily transactions, their daily reconciliation of their accounts, their cash flow management. Where should I keep my accounts? Which structure should I keep per country? How is the best way to pay my suppliers? Which is the best way to pay my employees? In which countries? In which currencies? Where should I hold an account? Where should I send an international payment? Is different the cost? What's the cost of maintaining an account in a different geography? So yes, we are really taking care of their day-to-day basis, not forgetting that treasury for a company is probably like the heart for a human body. If the heart is working well, probably you won't notice if you can run or if you can walk or if you can go shopping. But if you have problems with the heart, probably something else is going to be wrong in the company. And for the company, the important part is not the treasury. The important part is their business. But this flow that is like the underlying part of the company is critical for them. So that's where we can help them optimizing.
Where do you hope the Ripple project goes, the Ripple work goes? And how quickly, I guess, do you hope it progresses?
Probably, if I can answer that question, I would be betting instead of working at a bank. But probably no one knows. I know that things like Ripple are here to stay. And I feel a little bit like in year 2000 when all the internet world was sparkling and everyone has a website and Google was starting to be something. No? We don't know who is going to be the Google of the payment rails. Maybe Ripple, maybe another one. Probably it would be based in blockchain, but we cannot say that yet. And how quickly? That's a very good question. I think that probably in the next 3 to 5 year times, we will see some changes, or we will at least see which is the direction in which the market is moving.
So you have extensive experience working with fintechs from a partnership standpoint. What advice, based on your experience, would you have for fintechs looking to partner with banks? I mean, what do fintechs get wrong? What could they do better?
I have many, but I'm going to choose 2 or 3. The first one is probably don't oversell. Don't let me know that you can do everything, because I know that probably with work and thousands of hours, you and us and everyone can do everything. But probably the solution has a vision, but it has also something that could be delivered today. Let's work on what can be delivered today, and then we can work together in the vision. The second thing is you must understand that a bank is probably a very big structure where things don't happen quickly. I mean, things like having a super admin or things like going live with a new version in seconds or days probably require some process, which internally is important. So you have to be patient. You have to understand that you are dealing with a superstructure that is very big, where everyone has a role. So you will need to adapt to this. And things that are very useful in this environment could be, for example, be clear on the hardware requirements. Be clear in how able are you to use an enterprise software and not a free software that probably could not comply with the bank policies, etc. Things like complying with data protection or others are critical for banks. So where the data is stored, how and who is going to access those data is also critical for the bank. And then another one is what we call a who does what list. Probably is much more useful than who is who list. No? And the last but not least is for the first installation, come and stay on site with the bank, even it's a pilot, even it's in initial testing. Come here and see with us which are the problems that we are finding when deploying your software into production or when linking into the bank APIs or whatever, because you are going to understand much better what's still to do.
I think those are all very helpful points. Now potentially to put banks on the spot, to flip that question around, what advice would you have to banks who are looking to better engage with fintechs? What can banks be doing better to promote partnerships?
Well, in banks, I think that the most challenging thing that we do have, all of us, is changing our internal culture. Is understanding that fintech usually is a startup that is starting their business and probably are not experts in many things. So you are not talking to a big company established that have checked legality in every single country, that have checked all the compliant issues in every single country. So probably we need to understand that it's much more a collaboration effort in the big sense of the word. I mean, we need to understand what they know and what they don't. We need to be much more open in looking for the how we can instead of we cannot do. And probably what we need to do is, at this point in time, force our people to dedicate some time to the innovation, just to make them feel comfortable with this world of innovation. It requires a different way of thinking and much more open-mindedness.
Great. Well, Carmela Gomez, Head of Global Treasury Solutions at BBVA, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Marisol, welcome to Rebank.
Thank you for inviting me.
What do you do at BBVA?
I'm head of open innovation for BBVA. Mainly, we connect the external ecosystem with all the BBVA business units worldwide.
Wow. Okay. So maybe you can help map this for us. We're here for the Open Talent program, as part of the Open Talent program that you guys run every year, which falls under your remit. How does the Open Talent program fit into the broader work that you do?
In the open innovation activity, we have three main lines of action. The first line is we scout the external ecosystem. The objective of this is finding the best startups that are working in transforming the financial industry worldwide. So the premise for this is that if we want to do the best, to bring the amazing to the hands of our customers, to transform the financial industry, we can't do it alone. We know that the best is outside BBVA. So our mission is to find them and hunt them down to work with us. So we connect with the external ecosystem. On the other hand, the second pillar would be to understand what all business units are doing worldwide. So we connect with all the teams, global teams, and the teams in each country to understand their priorities, the opportunities, and the needs that they will have. So we map out those needs and opportunities. And finally, the third pillar is a matchmaking between the two of them. So we do an intense work on finding and doing this nice connection between startups and BBVA specific needs to push and push that relationship, possibly work in a future pilot, and in a very lean way get to test if this relationship has a future. So hopefully ending up in a collaboration opportunity for a long time. And the open talent competition is our best tool to hunt down the talent worldwide. The open talent competition has been running for 9 years. We've been learning so much in that time, but nowadays it's a relevant tool to capture that talent. And this year we got around 798 startups in 77 countries or something like that. So we have reached to much more countries that we have presence, and that's our aim.
Wow. And okay, so you effectively manage not only the Open Talent program, but also the link back to the business. And making those introductions and kind of finding the right place to fit those solutions in. Wow. Okay, so Open Talent Program specifically, there are 5 different tracks. The one that we're involved in this week is the Fintech for Companies track. What are the other tracks?
So we have 3 main topics, which are identity, anything related to make sure that whoever is operating at that moment is who they say they are. Then we have artificial intelligence and its applications to the financial industry. And the third thematic is around B2B, or what we call Fintech for Companies. Then we created a full program to scout talent in the regions where we have presence. So we created specific competitions in 10 countries. And so the fourth vertical would be the regional competition in the countries that we have presence. And the fifth one is the global trends, which is a nice way to say that we don't want to leave anything out. And that's where we are analyzing other regions and other topics.
What is it about BBVA that makes it an innovative bank?
That's an interesting question because, nowadays you can breathe this innovation spirit in every other activity that we are doing all around. It's one of the sweetest moments, I think, to be here in this company. And of course, we have the top-down strategy and instructions to do so. We have full support from the very top. Our CEO, our chairman, and all the leadership is highly involved in this. And proof of that is that here today, we have senior leadership collaborating with the startups. And also in everyday activity and in the strategy, we have open innovation as one of the strategies and one of the 3 strategies for innovation. Besides, of course, what we can do organically with our own teams and what we can buy inorganically with our M&A activities. Open innovation is recognized as one of the pillars for that strategy. But also the mindset of every other team who is working in this transformation. You might say that right now BBVA doesn't have a innovation unit. The innovation is distributed among all teams who have their mission to transform their specific part of activity, and you can breathe it in the everyday life.
Marisol Menendez, Head of Open Innovation at BBVA, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for tuning into Rebank. If you like today's show, reach out. Follow us on Twitter at Rebank Podcast and join the conversation. For more on banking, fintech, and the future, check out our regular content at www.bankingthefuture.com.